Welcome to Speech and Mind. In today's episode, we're exploring a transformative practice that bridges ancient spiritual insight with modern neuroscience. Mindful statements, aka affirmations. These are not just feel-good mantras. When practiced with awareness and intention, mindful statements can literally rewire your brain, reshape your identity, and redirect the course of your life. So, settle in. Take a deep breath. You're about to learn how a few conscious words, spoken with belief, can change everything. These principles endure beyond time. They've been lived out, challenged, and confirmed. Not as mere theories, but in the bold choices of those who chose to see the world anew. In this video, we'll explore Part 1. What are mindful statements? Part 2. Spiritual wisdom on speech and belief. Part 3. How to use mindful statements effectively. Part 4. The science of identity and belief. How inner speech shapes who you become. Part 5. Sample mindful statements to rewire your reality. Part 6. How affirmations affect the subconscious mind. And at the end of this video, you will be invited to download your free Mindful Identity Statement Worksheet. This is more than just listening. It's a call to embrace the life you are destined for, with purpose, awareness, and strength. So settle into stillness. Allow these words to resonate deeply, and most importantly, let them stir something inside you. True transformation doesn't come from the world around you. It begins within your thoughts and takes shape through your voice. Let these words lead you back to yourself, because everything you need, you already possess. Ready? Let's start. Part 1. What are mindful statements? Mindful statements are short, powerful affirmations that align your inner dialogue with the person you want to become. They are rooted in conscious awareness, designed not just to repeat something positive, but to embody a state of being. But what exactly are mindful statements? On the surface, they might look like ordinary affirmations, short, positive phrases you repeat to yourself. But when practiced consciously and deliberately, mindful statements are much more than self-help slogans. They are expressions of inner truth, spoken in the language of becoming. Mindful statements are crafted with the intention of aligning your inner speech, your subconscious programming, and your emotional state with the reality you want to experience. They are not meant to deny your current circumstances. They are tools for redirecting your focus, rewiring your belief systems, and transforming your self-concept. Let's take a closer look at the word mindful. Mindfulness is the art of being fully present, aware of your thoughts, feelings, and sensations without judgment. When you apply mindfulness to your inner speech, you move from unconscious, reactive thinking to deliberate, creative thought. So a mindful statement is not just something you say, it's something you observe, embody, and energize with awareness. Let me explain why this matters. Throughout the day, most of us engage in what psychologists call automatic negative thoughts, or ANTS. These are the inner criticisms, doubts, and limitations we've picked up from childhood, culture, trauma, and repeated life experiences. When you say, "I'm not good enough," "Things never work out for me," "I can't change," "I'm too old," "I always mess things up," these thoughts become mental grooves, familiar, habitual, and deeply ingrained. And most of the time, we're not even aware we're thinking them, but your subconscious does hear them, and it takes them as instructions. This is where mindful statements come in. They are the conscious antidote to unconscious self-sabotage. They are new grooves you intentionally carve into the mind, pathways that lead to new patterns of perception, behavior, and ultimately, reality. The power of words on identity and biology. Now, here's where it gets scientific. Modern science confirms what mystics have known for centuries. Your brain is constantly reshaping itself based on your thoughts and experiences. This is neuroplasticity. When you repeat a mindful statement with emotion and belief, you strengthen new neural pathways. In essence, you're training your brain to form a new reality. Your words don't just describe your world, they help construct it. This is backed by research in neuroscience, psycholinguistics, and behavioral psychology. When you say something repeatedly with emotional intensity, you engage key systems in your brain. The limbic system, which governs emotion. The default mode network, DMN, which handles self-referential thought. The DMN is active when your mind wanders or reflects on your self-image. Mindful statements reshape your default identity, changing how you perceive yourself even when you're not consciously affirming. And the reticular activating system, RAS, which filters your perception of reality. It decides what information gets noticed when you focus on a specific statement, like, "I attract supportive relationships." Your RAS begins noticing opportunities, people, and situations that confirm that belief. This is confirmation bias in action. Your brain seeks evidence for what you believe. In plain language, what you consistently say about yourself, especially with emotion, becomes a blueprint for your brain to follow. This is how your self-image forms. And once your self-image is in place, your actions will almost always align with it. So when you affirm, "I am capable," "I am worthy," "I am calm and in control," you're not just hoping, you're engaging the mechanisms of neuroplasticity, physically shaping new connections in the brain. The spiritual dimension, word as creative force. From ancient traditions to mystical teachings, the spoken word is considered a sacred power. In the Bible, creation begins not with action, but with speech. And God said, "Let there be light." In the Vedas, it is the primordial sound, Om, that is said to bring the universe into being. The Hermetic tradition teaches that as within, so without, emphasizing the inner word, your self-talk, as the foundation of outer experience. And Neville Goddard, a modern mystic, wrote that your assumptions, spoken with conviction, are vibrations of consciousness that mold the world around you. He said, "Your inner speech mirrors your mind, and your outer world mirrors your inner speech." In this light, mindful statements are not just psychological tools. They are spiritual technologies, mechanisms for tuning your consciousness to the frequency of what you desire. You're not just affirming a new reality, you're inhabiting it. It's more than positivity. It's directional. Importantly, mindful statements are not about pretending everything is perfect. They are not escapism, they are directional. Like a compass, they point you toward the person you choose to become, not the one you've been told you are. They help you move from fear to calm, doubt to faith, shame to worthiness, limitation to expansion. They don't work through blind hope, but through repeated, emotionally infused engagement. Over time, they shift your vibration, your identity, and your reality. A mindful statement is a present tense, emotionally charged affirmation, grounded in conscious awareness, designed to align your internal belief system with your desired identity and reality. It is both scientific and spiritual. It rewires neural patterns, it reprograms the subconscious, it reshapes your self-image, and it renews your spiritual alignment. With consistent practice, mindful statements become more than just words. They become your mental operating system. Unlike empty repetition, mindful statements are felt, emotionally and somatically. They're about shifting from what Neville Goddard called thinking of the wish Part 2. Thinking from the wish fulfilled. You don't just say it, you become it. Part 2. Spiritual wisdom on speech and belief. Across every ancient spiritual path, from east to west, one truth echoes through time. Your word is power. The mystics, sages, and scriptures have long understood something science is only beginning to confirm: that the words you speak, especially those you speak within, carry creative force. Let's begin at the beginning, literally. In the book of Genesis, the world is not built by hands. It is spoken into being. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Creation begins not with movement, but with a vibration, a divine utterance. Speech, in this view, is not a description of reality. It is a tool of manifestation, and this theme repeats across cultures. In Hinduism, the primordial sound Om is more than a chant. It is the sonic blueprint of the universe. It is said to be the original vibration from which all things emanate. When the yogi intones Om, they align with the pulse of creation itself. In Buddhist and Taoist traditions, the connection between thought, speech, and destiny is regarded with great reverence. The Tao Te Ching teaches us, watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny. This is not poetry, it is spiritual neuroscience. It shows us a path of becoming that begins with thought, crystallizes through speech, and materializes in form. The inner word, thought made flesh. But there is something even deeper, something more intimate. The great mystic Neville Goddard taught that creation is not only spiritual, it is psychological. He said, imagination is God, and God is within you. What you imagine with feeling, you externalize in the world. Goddard's core teaching can be distilled into one sacred practice. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Why? Because what you persistently assume, you eventually express. The outer world becomes a mirror, reflecting back the dominant assumptions you carry within. This is where mindful statements become more than affirmations. They become the vehicles of assumption. Each statement, spoken with awareness and feeling, is a seed of creation. Planted in the soil of the subconscious, it is watered by repetition, nourished by emotion, and activated by belief. Over time, that seed grows, first invisibly, then inevitably, into the fruit of lived experience. The Alchemy of Speech. Let's go even further. In Kabbalistic mysticism, the Hebrew letters themselves are seen as containers of divine energy. To speak a word is to unleash spiritual architecture into the fabric of existence. The ancient Egyptians, too, revered the god Thoth, who governed both speech and magic. Why both? Because to the Egyptians, words were spells. To speak was to shape the unseen forces of reality. In Islamic mysticism also, the 99 names of God are considered vibrational keys. Reciting them invokes attributes of divine consciousness into the self. And what about the Gnostic texts, the Sufi poets, or the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus? All speak to this central truth. You create as you speak. The tongue is not only a muscle. It is a wand, a key, a rudder steering the ship of consciousness. Word as vibration, vibration as reality. Now let's tie the spiritual to the scientific. Everything in existence is vibration. Your thoughts vibrate, your emotions vibrate, your words carry frequency, and like attracts like, this is both spiritual law and quantum resonance. When you speak mindfully from a place of faith, gratitude or love, you are aligning your frequency with higher realities. You are not begging the universe, you are broadcasting your identity. And the universe, as an infinite echo chamber of consciousness, responds accordingly. Mindful statements as seeds of becoming. So what is a mindful statement in this context? It is a sacred utterance, a chosen vibration, a spell of intention. It is how you speak not from your past, but from your future. Not from fear, but from faith. You do not say, "I will be confident one day." You declare, "I'm confident, I trust myself, I walk in peace. I'm what I want to be now." And you do this not to convince others, but to remind your subconscious of who you truly are. Besides, the practice of mindful statements is done in secret. You are alone with yourself. You say it daily, repeatedly, emotionally, until it becomes your dominant frequency. Because ultimately, we do not get what we want. We get what we are. To speak mindfully is to live intentionally. It is to accept your role as creator, not victim. To plant the right seeds in the fertile ground of your subconscious, and to trust, like the mystics, the prophets, and the awakened always have, that the word made flesh is not a myth. It is a process, one that begins with a statement spoken in awareness, nurtured in emotion, and fulfilled through faith. Part 3. How to use mindful statements effectively. So now that we understand the power behind mindful statements, the question becomes, how do we use them effectively? Mindful statements are not magic spells in the Hollywood sense. They're not about wishful thinking or repeating empty phrases. They're about creating intentional change, internally and externally, by aligning your speech, thoughts, emotions, and identity. To unlock their full power, we need to approach them not casually, but consciously, as spiritual and psychological tools. Let's explore 5 foundational principles for using mindful statements in a way that actually reshapes your inner world and your outer life. First principle, present tense. Speak as if it's happening now. I am enough. I am healing. I am already in alignment with my highest path. You grabbed it. Always speak your statements in the present tense. This may sound simple, but it's profound. Why? Because the subconscious mind does not understand the future tense the way the conscious mind does. It responds to what is felt and declared as already real. When you say, "I will be confident," your subconscious hears, "I am not confident now." You are affirming the absence, not the presence of your desired state. But when you say, "I'm confident," and speak it with conviction, your subconscious begins to shift its self-image instantly. You're giving your nervous system a new instruction, not based on current circumstances, but on your chosen identity. This aligns perfectly with Neville Goddard's teaching. Live from the end, speak from the end, embody the end. You don't hope for change, you become the change here and now. Second principle, emotional involvement. Feel the truth of your words. Words alone are not enough. It is emotion that impresses the subconscious. It is feeling that fuels transformation. As psychologist William James once said, "The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter their life by altering their attitude of mind." But this alteration requires not just words, it requires emotional resonance. So as you speak your mindful statement, don't just say it, feel it. Say it as though it's already true. Feel the relief of it, the joy of it, the grounded certainty of it. If you say, "I'm safe," breathe it in. Let your shoulders drop. Let your heart believe it. Why does this matter? Because according to neuroscience, emotion is the amplifier of memory and belief. It is what makes neural pathways stick. The more emotionally charged the repetition, the more likely your brain rewires itself around the new belief. In spiritual terms, emotion is the faith behind the word, and faith is the substance of things hoped for. Third principle, repetition plus presence. Train your subconscious consistently. You can't go to the gym once and expect a transformation. The same goes for mental training. Repetition creates identity. The more you repeat a mindful statement, especially when emotionally present, the more it begins to take root. But timing also matters. The subconscious is most open to suggestion during transitional states of consciousness, specifically right after waking up, just before falling asleep, during meditation or deep relaxation. These are windows where the critical faculty of the conscious mind is quieted and the subconscious is receptive. Use these times wisely. Don't check your phone first thing in the morning. Check in with your intention. Let your first thoughts of the day be creative, empowering, healing. For example, say, I am calm and capable. I walk in alignment today. Everything is unfolding for my highest good. And repeat your chosen statement every single day. Not out of desperation, but out of devotion. Because what you repeat, you eventually become. Fourth principle, anchor to breath or movement. Embed in daily rhythm. Repetition is powerful, but anchored repetition is even more powerful. When you attach mindful statements to movement or breath, you weave them into your nervous system. Try saying, I am strong and steady as you walk, or I am grounded and safe as you exhale deeply. You can repeat affirmations while brushing your teeth, washing dishes, stretching, or during your morning run. Why does this work? Because the body remembers. When speech is tied to movement, you create embodied affirmations, not just mental ones. This taps into the brain's mirror neuron system, procedural memory, and even the default mode network, DMN, linking language, motion, and identity formation. I remember an explanation of the behavior of the mind by Ramana Maharshi. He compares the behavior of the mind to a monkey that jumps from tree to tree. It never stays in one place. So how do you make the monkey stay in one place all the time? You tie it to a tree. You can do the same with the mind, which jumps from thought to thought. You tie it to the breath. You tie it to something. Spiritually, this is also a form of ritual. You're training your mind to speak truth into your body, and your body to reflect truth in your being. Over time, your habits and posture begin to align with your statements. Fifth principle, visualize the outcome. Let the image arise. Finally, don't just speak your mindful statement, see it. Visualization activates the same brain regions as real experience. When you say, I'm confident, and at the same time see yourself walking into a room with grace and strength, you are giving your subconscious a blueprint to follow. This is how athletes rehearse championship performances. It's how spiritual teachers embody their divine vision, and it's how you can pull the future into the now. Create a short movie in your mind, no more than 10 seconds. Loop it as you say your statement. Over time, it will feel less like imagination and more like memory. Because what you repeatedly visualize and affirm, the brain begins to interpret as real. And in the quantum field, what feels real becomes probable. Let's recap. Speak in present tense. Align with the now. Engage your emotions. Feel the truth. Use daily repetition, especially during receptive moments. Anchor your words to breath, body, or habits. Visualize the result. Let it play like a movie. These 5 principles turn mindful statements from simple words into living affirmations, from recitations into activations of your potential. Used wisely, they rewire your mind, reshape your mood, and realign your life. They turn intention into identity, and identity into reality, because in the end, your words don't just describe your world, they design it. Part 4. The Science of Identity and Belief. How inner speech shapes who you become. How what you say becomes who you are. Who you believe you are quietly shapes what you will or won't reach for in life. Every decision you make, every habit you build or break, every goal you set or avoid, it all flows from one invisible source, your self-concept, the deep-seated beliefs you hold about who you are and what you're capable of. Now here's the fascinating part. Modern neuroscience, cognitive psychology, and ancient spiritual wisdom all agree. Identity is not fixed, it's a script, and you can rewrite it. And it's the hidden key behind why mindful statements work, when used consciously. Let's explore the science of identity, belief, and how changing the words you repeat can change the wiring of your brain and the trajectory of your life. Fixed versus growth mindset, the work of Dr. Carol Dweck. One of the most well-known and transformative psychological studies comes from Dr. Carol Dweck at Stanford University, who introduced the idea of the fixed versus growth mindset. A fixed mindset is when you believe your abilities are carved in stone. The belief that your traits, intelligence, talent, willpower, are unchangeable. These people say, "I'm just not a math person. I always give up. I'm not good at this. I've never been disciplined," etc., etc. This kind of inner dialogue shuts down learning. It literally tells your brain, "Don't bother trying." But a growth mindset changes everything. The belief that abilities can be developed through effort and strategy. These people say, "I'm improving with every challenge. I haven't figured it out yet, but I will." Every mistake is feedback. When you say, "I'm still learning," I can improve with effort. Every step forward strengthens me. You send a powerful signal to the brain. Keep going. Adapt. Grow. What Dr. Dweck found was revolutionary. When people shifted from fixed to growth language, their brains physically changed. Studies using functional MRI scans showed more activation in the learning centers of the brain. They persisted longer, showed greater resilience, and performed better over time. The people who adopt growth mindset statements activate more neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to rewire itself. So yes, the statements you repeat, especially about your identity, can actually change your biology, your motivation, and even your performance. Now combine this with spiritual insight. Neville Goddard said, "You rise or fall by the assumptions you persist in." The Buddha taught, "What you think, you become. What you feel, you attract. What you imagine, you create." Modern science and ancient wisdom are pointing to the same truth. Your identity is fluid. Your belief is a brush. And your self-concept is the canvas. Identity statements, sculpting the self from the inside out. Identity is behavior on autopilot. Your identity, the belief about who you are, is what shapes your habits, which then shape your destiny. Behavioral science shows that we act in alignment with who we think we are. This is called self-consistency theory. For example, if you believe, "I'm undisciplined," you'll subconsciously sabotage efforts that require structure. But if you regularly affirm, "I'm someone who keeps promises to myself," your brain will begin to seek ways to stay congruent with that new belief. Here's the key. Your identity leads, your behavior follows. That's why identity statements are so powerful. They don't just aim for external results. They build a new internal standard, a new default mode for how you show up. Here's the most empowering insight. You can train your brain to believe new things about yourself by repeating identity-based statements that align with your chosen future. These aren't just surface-level affirmations. They're declarations of being. They work because they speak to who you are, not just what you want. Here are some examples. I am focused and committed to my growth. I am the kind of person who follows through. I am disciplined in small things, and the big things take care of themselves. I am someone who keeps promises to myself. I rise after every fall, stronger than before. Why do these work? Because your subconscious doesn't resist identity. It reflects it. The more you repeat who you are becoming, the more your thoughts, emotions, and actions begin to align. This is what neuroscientists call cognitive dissonance reduction. When your behavior doesn't match your self-image, your brain feels tension. So, one of two things has to change. Either your actions adjust downward to match your old identity, or if you keep reinforcing a new identity through statements and visualization, your actions begin to rise to meet the new belief. Because identity drives behavior, and behavior reinforces identity. If you say, "I am healthy," you'll start making choices that reflect that belief. If you say, "I am the kind of person who moves daily," your body starts expecting movement. If you say, "I am resilient," your nervous system begins adapting to stress more skillfully. This is self-directed neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reshape itself based on conscious intention and repeated thought. In 2005, cell biologist Dr. Bruce Lipton popularized a bold idea: that genes don't control us, our beliefs do. Through epigenetics, we now understand that environmental signals, including thoughts and emotions, affect gene expression. In other words, how you see yourself can influence how your cells behave. When you feel empowered, positive hormones like dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin increase. These biochemicals improve immune function, cognition, and energy. When you affirm, "I am loved, I am safe, I am whole," you are not just speaking spiritually, you are literally shifting your biochemistry. Repetition, emotion, and consistency. Here's the formula. Clarity plus emotion plus repetition equals transformation. Let's break that down. Clarity. Choose identity statements that reflect the kind of person you want to be, not just what you want to do. Emotion. Say them with conviction. Emotion is what impresses them into the subconscious mind. Repetition. Repeat them often, especially when the mind is most open, like right before sleep, just after waking, or in meditative states. Over time, this builds automaticity. You begin to act in alignment with your new identity without even thinking about it. This is how habits are formed. This is how confidence grows. This is how you become the future version of yourself, by speaking as if you already are that person. Spiritual echoes of scientific truth. Ancient spiritual teachings echoed this science long before we had MRIs or psychology degrees. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, "A person is made by their faith. As their belief is, so they are." In Proverbs, we find, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." Neville Goddard said, "You rise or fall by the assumptions you persist in." And in modern terms, your identity shapes your reality because your brain, your habits, and your destiny all follow your belief. Part 5. Sample mindful statements to rewire your reality. Let's now bring everything together with real, powerful examples of mindful identity statements, crafted to rewire not only how you think, but who you believe yourself to be. These aren't just pretty phrases. They're neuro-linguistic cues that communicate directly with your subconscious mind, especially when repeated with emotion and intention. When spoken regularly, especially during brainwave-sensitive times like early morning, before sleep, or during meditation, these affirmations begin to reshape neural pathways associated with self-worth, resilience, and action. Choose the ones that resonate with you, or use these as a springboard to craft your own. Let's begin. 1. I radiate calm, confidence, and inner peace. This activates parasympathetic nervous system responses, calming your body while training your mind to embody peaceful authority. 2. Everything in my life is unfolding for my highest good, even when I can't yet see how. A powerful reframe rooted in trust. Neuroscience shows that belief in a benevolent future reduces cortisol and builds optimism circuits in the brain. 3. I am worthy of love, success, and abundance, simply because I exist. Spiritually, your worth is inherent. Scientifically, this counteracts old scripts of shame and scarcity, promoting healthier self-esteem and assertiveness. 4. My thoughts shape my reality. I choose thoughts that align with the life I'm creating. Cognitive behavioral therapy echoes this. Thoughts influence feelings, which influence behavior. Choose wisely. 5. I am resilient, focused, and unstoppable because I rise every time I fall. This is an identity rooted in growth. It frames struggle as fuel for your evolution. 6. I trust the divine timing of my life. I release urgency and welcome flow. Stress creates resistance. Faith creates coherence. Mentally, emotionally, even in your heart rhythm. 7. I am in harmony with my higher self. I act from purpose, not pressure. The spiritual path is about remembering who you truly are, not becoming someone new. 8. My words are sacred tools. I speak to heal, to uplift, and to create. This aligns with spiritual teachings across cultures, where speech is seen as creative fire, shaping reality. 9. Every challenge refines me. I emerge wiser, stronger, more compassionate. Neuroscience shows adversity builds mental toughness when paired with meaning and self-compassion. 10. I am already becoming the version of myself I used to only imagine. This identity bridges the gap between the present and the future self. Your subconscious accepts it as direction, not wishful thinking. You don't need to fully believe every statement 100% at first. That's okay. Just start with willingness. The belief will follow. If belief is the destination, then willingness is the bridge. Speak these statements aloud. Feel their truth, even if it's only a whisper in the beginning. Let them take root. Repetition waters the seed. Emotion gives it light. And time grows the tree. Part 6. How affirmations affect the subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is like fertile soil. Whatever you plant, whether positive or negative, will grow. And here's the key. It doesn't filter, question, or analyze. It doesn't understand sarcasm. It doesn't grasp humor that is self-deprecating. It simply accepts what it hears repeatedly, especially if it's charged with emotion, as true. So when you say things like, "I'm always messing things up," "Nothing good ever happens to me," I'm just not cut out for this. Your subconscious doesn't argue. It quietly records it, files it, and begins to align your behavior, perception, and even physical responses to match that belief. These phrases, often said out of habit or frustration, become scripts your inner world runs on. But here's the empowering truth. You can change the script. Mindful statements, spoken consciously, repeatedly, and with emotional involvement, begin to overwrite the limiting programs. This process is not wishful thinking. It's based in neuroscience and psychology. In cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, patients are taught to reframe negative automatic thoughts because repeated reframing rewires emotional and cognitive patterns. In clinical hypnosis, the subconscious is accessed in a relaxed, suggestible state, where new beliefs are gently embedded through repetition and imagery. In neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to rewire itself, affirmations act as repeated input that creates new synaptic pathways. Over time, the dominant thought becomes the default, both neurologically and energetically. When you affirm, "I am worthy of love and respect. I trust myself to make good decisions. I am safe to grow, to expand, to be seen," your subconscious receives these as new operating instructions. With enough consistency and emotional weight, the subconscious begins to accept these new beliefs as the new normal. This is inner programming. Much like updating the software on your phone, you're not trying to force change. You're installing new, better code, built on truth, alignment, and love. Spiritually speaking, this is also echoed in sacred traditions. In the Vedic tradition, mantras are repeated to cleanse the mind and align with a higher consciousness. In Christianity, the word is seen as a creative force. In the beginning was the Word. In Buddhism, mindful speech is one of the eightfold paths, essential to liberation. So when you speak a mindful statement, you're not just saying words. You are reshaping your neural architecture. You are sending a vibrational command into the field of consciousness. You are rewriting the internal story that becomes your outer reality. Your subconscious is always listening, so speak to it like a gardener tending soil, with intention, with love, and with patience. What will you choose to plant today? Final integration, living the words. Mindful statements are not magic spells. They're not wishful thinking or empty affirmations shouted into the void. They are deliberate mental habits repeated with presence that begin to shape how you see yourself, and eventually how you show up in the world. This is about identity evolution, not instant gratification. The goal isn't to say a phrase once and wait for transformation. The goal is to live the phrase until the words are no longer something you're trying to become, but a mirror of who you already are. Until "I am confident" becomes the natural tone of your voice. Until "I am aligned with peace" becomes the emotional baseline of your life. Until "I follow through" becomes the quiet truth you trust in yourself. This is how new neural pathways are built. This is how the subconscious reorients toward clarity, strength, and purpose. This is how spiritual alignment meets psychological integration. So here's your simple but powerful invitation. Choose 3 mindful statements today. Repeat them in the morning and at night when your brain is most receptive. Write them down daily to engage your motor cortex and reinforce the imprint. Speak them with emotional presence. Visualize them as already true, as if you're watching the movie of your life unfolding in alignment with those words. You'll begin to notice a shift. Your thoughts will soften and strengthen. Your emotions will steady. Your actions will align. And your outer world will begin to reflect the inner truth you've planted and nurtured. Because you're not just saying words, You are speaking your reality into existence. You are becoming the architect of your inner world and the author of your identity. Download your free Mindful Identity Statement Worksheet. Ready to rewire your brain and realign with your highest self. We've created a beautifully designed, easy-to-follow worksheet to help you craft your own mindful identity statements, grounded in neuroscience and spiritual wisdom. Click the link at the right top corner to download the free PDF file and start your transformation today. Use it daily to reinforce empowering beliefs, anchor them into your routine, and visualize your new identity into being. And once you've tried it, come back and let us know in the comments. What statement did you create? How did it feel to say it regularly? What changes have you noticed? Your story might inspire someone else on their journey. Thank you for joining me here on Speech and Mind. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to like, share, and subscribe for more transformative insights on mastering your inner dialogue and reshaping your life from the inside out. Your words shape your reality. Speak with intention. Live with purpose.